We can share our screens as we speak. Is that right?
Yeah, live. So
We can share our screens as we speak. Is that right?
okay, so good morning, everyone. So we are here at the InnoFX Show Talks, and I'm happy to announce that we have recently got associated with Kaba, and we have the speakers with us. We have David Cabs. We have David Cabs, John Bolban, and we have Chris Levy from Kaba itself. So I would like to take the opportunity to first show the video about the InnoFX show, which is the show that we are going to present on 8th and 9th of June. Okay, so this is about our show. As I told you that we are coming up with a show called the InnoFX Show, which is about the resilient recovery of the hospitality and entertainment sector based on the facility management. So one of the important topic in facility management is how improved indoor air quality can help facilities to increase efficiency. So I just hand over to David. He will take forward for the webinar now.
Hey, David, you're on mute.
Hi, David. David, can you hear us?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the technical.
I think, David, there are two devices connected, so you have to mute another device.
Okay, I'm sorry for the delay. I'm going to shut this down. I apologize for the technical difficulties trying to save two screens. I apologize, but CAB is happy to present the following information on intelligent buildings and COVID. We have an executive summary report that you can download from caba.org. And I will share my screen here. And sorry for the delay. Chris, maybe you can take on your slides and I'll be at the end.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay, I'll take over.
Yeah, you start. I apologize. My other thing failed.
Can you see my screen now, everyone?
Yeah, Chris,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Again,
let me introduce, on behalf of CABA, thank you, Vipin. I really apologize for the technical difficulties. Tried to get two things going at the same time. We're happy on behalf of CABA to be a sponsor of your innovative show for the hospitality industry. I'm going to let Chris Larry, one of our ambassador speakers, start explaining, improved indoor air quality and the energy side, and then John, who is from the indoor air quality industry and building automation, can explain how he can bring sensors and new information in light of the COVID. And then I'll close with a little bit of CABA and its intelligent building report on and intelligent buildings after COVID. I apologize for the initial delay. Thank you.
Okay, David, thanks for the introduction. This shows you a little bit about what the show's about and the speaker. So a little introduction about myself, just so you know who I am. I have a lot of acronyms behind my name, but I have extensive knowledge in building design and construction, control technology, and as David said, I'm affiliated with CABA as one of the board members. I do have extensive knowledge of indoor air quality and ventilation systems. A little introduction about EXP. A lot of people don't know who they are, but we've been in business over 100 years, top 10 design firm, and one of our groups focuses on casinos, parks, and gaming venues as in addition to hospitality. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we work on. One of the things that we've done for our customers is put together a little brochure on COVID-19 for casinos and resorts. It was set up specifically for those clients. If you want to just send me an email, I can send you this report. It's a white paper. It's pretty extensive. This is kind of one of the pages, what it looks like. Kind of gives you an idea. A lot of information about ASHRAE, who kind of is probably the leader in indoor air quality. And again, this brochure is not really focused on the subject of our call today, but it does go into COVID-19 in offices and hospitality. So it will help you plan for your reoccupation of your building. We're kind of going to talk a little bit about what a well-ventilated building is or what a poor ventilated building is. I'm going to introduce a little thing about smart building technologies, which I think the rest of the speakers are going to really dive into, and why indoor air quality is important and how we can ensure the safe return to buildings during COVID, and then some designs to address this and special ways to address indoor air quality. I'll start out by defining what the concern is about indoor air quality. People have heard the acronym SBS, Sick Building Syndrome. I put up the definition, but one of the things I wanted to bring up is what happens when you don't have really good fresh air. You lack oxygen, and so your brain fatigues, you become drowsy, dullness of the mind, and it can lead to poor performance. And it can also allow COVID to be spread within buildings that are overoccupied and have poor ventilation. So the key here is that, if you're not performing well, then your building is not as efficient as it could be. This is, when we're talking about indoor air quality, one of the things is humidity. And this is a chart from ASHRAE. It shows you, the black is basically as things get worse. So you can see the optimum relative humidity is 40 to 60%, which, sometimes in the winter and sometimes in the summer, these are hard to maintain, especially in really dry climates or really humid climates. One of the things you can do as far as addressing COVID is reduce occupancy. I think most of the people know some of these rules. Increase ventilation. You're trying to reduce the migration of droplets and sanitize surfaces. Smart building design, this kind of a definition, but you can use smart building design to help you report on the indoor air quality in a building. So it gives you a lot of trends and data that can support that the building is safe. So like I said, humidity levels 40 to 60%. Temperature will sometimes help droplets survive. CO2 levels is an indication of fresh air. And then VOCs are additional things that can affect indoor air quality. When we were talking about monitoring, this is kind of an idea that you can introduce systems. And again, John and David will probably address this, but this shows a chart where we set a threshold of indoor air quality. And when the system goes over that, it'll send an alarm or a fault. But you can also report to your occupants that the space is within limits, and that'll make them feel more comfortable. There is a well building standard, not going to go too much into it, but I did want to note that this well standard talks about making people comfortable and making the environments good for occupants. One of the things they promote is over 30 years of the cost of the building, your personnel costs are the biggest costs. So that's important to maintain your indoor air quality for that reason. So there's 7 concepts in the well building design, and air is one of those. And that's what we're talking about today. And that's why I brought it up. In air, there's certain criteria: ventilation, moisture control, construction processes, entrance, indoor quality testing and monitoring, filtration, cleaning protocol, and material selections. I'm not sure if everybody knows the 330-300 rule, but it's one that we use for smart buildings. And it basically kind of helps you understand how to make a building efficient. You know, you can look at utilities, but, you know, I'd put an example of a 100,000 gross square foot building. If you improve the utility by 1%, that's $30,000. If you improve the building, the rentable square feet by 1%, that's $30,000. And if you increase the efficiency or the performance of the employees, you know, if they're not getting enough outside air, we talked about them being kind of foggy and not really being productive. It can be $300,000. And those are annual figures. We talked about the reason we're talking about this is increasing the outdoor air volume. So, of course, when we bring in more outside air, it can require more energy, but you can address it in multiple different ways. You don't have to bring in outdoor air all the time, 24/7. You can maybe bring it in during certain temperatures or certain events or certain occupancies. The key is to minimize the energy penalty while increasing the ventilation. One of the things that designers do is put in demand control ventilation. And I have the definition here. You can look up more on this on the web, but they use a VOC or a carbon dioxide sensor to record what those concentrations are. And ASHRAE requires these for large spaces or spaces with high density occupation. One of the things as far as designs that we do is we can introduce a dedicated outdoor air unit. It's called a DOAS. What this does is basically it's a separate unit that will deal with the outside air. So it's designed either with heat recovery or with cooling and heating. And then that system either introduces air directly to the space or to the air handling units in the space. But it can control humidity. Usually that's what it's done in high humidity areas, because typically if you bring in outside air into a air handling unit, humidity isn't maintained. It also helps pressurize the building. There's also addressing indoor air quality. You can use UV lights. Now, it used to be that you would introduce UV lights to kill growth on your coils or on your filters, but the UVC has actually been proven to affect viruses. Now, it hasn't been proven necessarily on COVID-19, but I think if it kills the viruses, it'll probably do something to COVID-19, and reports will come out. But I also included this chart to show you frequencies of wavelengths of different light sources. And you can see UVC is down around 200. Another thing is ionization, bipolar ionization. These systems can be introduced into the air handling unit and within filtrations, and can increase your filtration. If you're using a MERV 8, can be equivalent to a MERV 13. Ozone is also used in spaces. It usually addresses smoke or odors. The one thing is you should be aware that it can affect humans in low levels, and it can address deterioration of plastics. Another idea is carbon filtration. Now, it doesn't really address any COVID issues, but it does address odor and smoke, and we should be concerned with any of these solutions where we're adding filtration will increase your cost and your pressure drop. This is the, when we talk about increasing ventilation, because we want to capture any viruses or clean the air. And you can see COVID-19 is at a micron level of 0.125. So that's below these minimum curves. A HEPA filtration, which could be recommended, the E10 or the E12 will address the micron particles that we're dealing with COVID-19. Displacement ventilation can also be used for COVID, introducing air and keeping away from the mouth of the breathing zone and pushing that away from other occupants is an idea. Some heat recovery ideas are heat pipes, which are simple, basically a tube with refrigerant in it. It takes the hot air and turns it into cold air as far as indoor to outside air. Runaround coil heat recovery uses glycol with 2 coils, one in the exhaust and one in the supply, to temper that outdoor air so you save a little bit of energy. In the same realm is a heat wheel, which basically this needs to have a wheel that, so that return air or the outside air need to be next to each other so that they can transfer that heat. And that energy could be sensible and latent, or it could be just sensible. So now I'll turn this over to David and let him take over.
Thank you. So Chris, there's a question in the chat. Does indoor air quality bring competitive advantage to the hospitality sector, especially the hotels post-pandemic? And what could be the implications on cost expenditure on maintenance? So, you know, I think they're looking for, as you pointed out in your office example, it's about productivity of improvement, but in hospitality, how do you think it affects the bottom line there? Is that more people, cleaner air, people gamble more, enjoy it more? I'll let you mention that.
Yeah, let me try to, I'm trying to unshare my screen.
So John, maybe you can share your screen, and as Chris may just reflect on that. And maybe I think I apologize for my technical difficulties, but you guys are the ones that have the equipment and the knowledge about indoor air quality. So I'll let you proceed, John. And maybe we can take questions at the end as well, Vipin.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll be talking a little bit about business impact in my slideshow in my presentation, so that may help. So hello, for those who haven't met me before, my name is John Bullman. I'm the founder and CEO at Hawken AQ. Hawken AQ is an air quality technology company. We build standards based on air quality, we build standards-based air quality apps and monitoring systems that help to give your guests confidence in the air quality of your building. We also build and deploy a building automation system that saves energy and modernizes building HVAC. We have that deployed in over 100 cities all over the world now, including commercial, residential, hotels, multiple national fast food chains. So we've kind of seen everything. My background's in computer science, and I'm young enough that I still have to put education on my bio to make me sound more impressive. So my background's computer science and entrepreneurship from Purdue and Princeton. So this is going to be a really practical talk. The challenge everyone is facing right now is how to best deal with COVID to help bring our guests back and make our building safe now and in the future. After talking about that, I want to provide some really practical strategies for sensors products and technologies that we've seen from our experiences providing air quality solutions from even before the pandemic started through today. After that, we're going to dive into the most important part of all, which is how we can use the investments that we're all making into air quality technologies and solutions to actually drive business impact. So get into the heart of that question that was asked. In other words, how do we help our guests and staff feel more comfortable in our businesses? I hope coming away, you'll have some simple but effective next steps you can do to make your building safer and get really good at sharing these improvements with your guests to help out your business. So there's two big ways we're seeing COVID impact hospitality. One is the staffing crisis, and the second is the consumer confidence in our guests. I have a friend who's been in the hospitality industry for at least a few decades now. He's run bars, restaurants. He's run one of the top rated resorts in the USA. He's touched really every area of the industry. He said it's never been more difficult than now to hire ever in his whole career. There's a staffing crisis in the hospitality industry. The National Restaurant Association recently released a report saying that 57% of restaurant operators rate this as the top challenge. Restaurant owners are doing everything from offering sign-on bonuses to flexible hours and more. There was a McDonald's in Florida that was making headlines for offering cash to potential employees just to come in and interview. Some of that's due to stay-at-home orders and government policies, et cetera. But many cite fear of workplace safety and COVID response being inadequate as one of the top reasons they're reluctant to return to work. And the second one is just guests are not feeling safe in the buildings. What we're seeing is that guest safety concerns are a big issue. And this is really polarizing topic. For example, Smith Travel Research, one of the industry leaders in market research and hospitality, found that among hotel guests, 40% were okay with minimal housekeeping in the rooms, but 30% didn't want it at all. So there's significant numbers that are okay, can't wait to go out and travel again, and indeed are starting to travel. But there are still significant numbers of potential guests who do not feel comfortable. STR predicts a slow recovery because of this, 50% occupancy rates in 2021, and big competition throughout 2022 for the customers willing to travel to hotels and casinos and other establishments in hospitality. So if we're going to have more competition, how do we stand out in the industry, and what are our customers and potential staff looking for as they decide whether to come visit? Simply put, it's just peace of mind and safety. If we can work this out, this really hits at the heart of all these concerns, doesn't it? So how do we make our building safe? How do our guests know that the building is safe? So moving on to the strategies portion of the talk. David actually, he didn't get to share his presentation yet, but luckily for me, I got a sneak peek at it beforehand. So I just ripped off one of his slides. hope you don't mind, David. But this is a perfect illustration of all the best strategies that you can use to ensure that you have great air quality in your building. So I'm going to go through each one of these and dive a little bit deeper into sensors and practical examples of how to implement them, giving you some tips on each and some example things that you can do to check these off based on what we're doing in the industry. We're going to go from the bottom to the top, and this pyramid looks daunting, but bear with me, it's actually a lot easier than it's ever been to check off most of these. And a lot of times you can do it really affordably as well. So I know a lot of the audience is probably in the hospitality industry and oftentimes will not have a building management system if we're talking about a restaurant or many types of hotels. That's totally okay. We work with folks all the time that are in small restaurants or hotels that do not have a BMS and frankly don't need one. We're going to recommend 2 solutions for some of these, just so you can see what you can do without a BMS and how adding one might make your life a little bit easier. So when it comes to operating HVAC when the building is occupied, a modern BMS is going to plug into all your devices, make sure your building's turned on with enough time in advance for staff and guests to be comfortable when they arrive. Even if you don't have a BMS, if you have a modern thermostat like a Nest or an Ecobee, they all have a scheduling component. Some tips on this: make sure you do at least a couple hours in advance so that you're following the ASHRAE standards. CDC also recommends that you turn the building on a couple hours in advance to help clear out the virus particles that are in the air. COVID provides a unique opportunity for energy savings because our buildings are not as occupied as they normally are. The trick is you need to have occupancy sensors in your building so you know which rooms are occupied, or you can have your BMS integrate with your booking system to get the fresh air where it needs to go, even if you don't have occupancy sensors. Modern thermostats like Nest have occupancy sensors, but if you don't want to buy those, we recommend a wireless occupancy sensor. That's about $60 and integrates with our air quality monitoring system, Hawken EQ. It's the one on the right there. I know it's a little bit hard to see against the white background, but I actually place it on there, on that white background on purpose to demonstrate how unobtrusive these sensors are nowadays. If your walls are white, your guests will never even notice it's there. This can be done with modern BMS, like the Commander platform, or if you reach out after the presentation, we can help you get this working on other systems too. Second, increase outdoor air ventilation. This one's a lot more important than most people realize. There's research that was published recently in Nature that showed that improving building ventilation to recommended ASHRAE levels can have the same effect as vaccinating half of the building occupants against influenza virus. Hard to believe, but it's true. And ASHRAE standards aren't really that much. It's 3 air changes per hour. So it's doable for many buildings. I would ask, another thing you can do, just ask building maintenance to open the outside air vents and turn on the fans. And BMS can help you balance this to reduce energy usage by opening the outdoor air when temperatures are closer to your indoor temperature and humidity levels. Third, maintain 40 to 60% humidity. So as Chris shared, humidity is really important, and it's the most commonly neglected element of comfort and air quality because it can be hard to get right. Research published by NIH found that if it's too dry, this increases the spread of influenza by quite a lot. It can be tricky to control, especially in drier climates. So if you're in a smaller building, a humidifier works, but you want to make sure you get one that automatically detects when the humidity goes up to 60% and turns off so it doesn't get too high. If you're in a larger building or have a BMS, you can get plenty of humidity sensors, including wireless ones like the one on the right, that are really cheap and work well with modern BMSs and products like Hawken EQ. So air filtration efficiency is the next one. Upgrade your air filtration. So as Chris mentioned this as well, one of the simplest things you can do to fight COVID is to upgrade to a real HEPA filter. So the MERV levels, as shown in this chart, define the effectiveness of air filters. Most commercial buildings are at around a MERV 8, if even that. So these don't really do anything for viruses on their own. You want to get up to around a 13, which is real HEPA, or complement your filters with bipolar ionization. Just check that when you're looking for filters and make sure the filters get changed regularly. We have a software feature in our app where you can plug in your filter dates, and then you or your building staff will get automatically text messages. So you get a reminder when it's time to change the filter. Filters are so often neglected. And the top of the pyramid is to deploy UVGI solutions. So these are the bipolar ionization technologies or similar technologies that fight COVID directly. The best brands we've found for this are, a couple of them are ActivePure and Global Plasma Solutions. ActivePure is the one on the right. It's rated by FDA to destroy virus particles and deploys out. It can be deployed out in rooms. So if you want to give your customers some visibility that you're using them, that's useful. Global Plasma Solutions on the left works similarly, but deploys in your vents and is also rated not to produce any harmful ozone and is completely self-cleaning, which is great. So the last section, I want to talk about how to take all these different technologies that we're investing in and actually produce some results for your business. So those are some of the specific technological solutions you can apply. But when we get to this point in the talk, the audience is usually in one of two boats. Either the eyes are glazed over because we're talking about, BMS, UVGI, checklist of things we have to do, et cetera, or they say, John, we're way ahead of the game. By now, we've already done all of this, and our customers just don't care that much. So how do we make this practical and drive some real business impact? Remember, our main problem is that many of our guests and staff just do not feel safe coming back to our businesses. Why is that really? Well, we can install all the temperature, CO2, humidity, PM sensors in the world, upgrade all our filters to HEPA, and buy these big UVGI devices. We can follow all the recommendations for additional cleanings, all mask wearing, everything. But at the end of the day, when our guests walk into our restaurants or get up to their room, what do they see? They see a sticker like this. And these practices are helpful, but our guests would be forgiven if they don't feel a whole lot more confident just because a sticker was applied to their door before they checked in. We've seen more than a few of these. The images of this one is quite a nice looking new one. And these just get reused so often that half the time one may wonder if this sign itself is a source of infection in the restaurant. So again, going back to the original problem, peace of mind, how do our guests know that the building really is safe? Here are some suggestions that we think can make a difference. Number one suggestion is use an air quality dashboard. Why? It proves to your customers that your building is safe. They don't need to trust you if they can see it for themselves. They don't need to read a sticker and trust the sticker. They can see it for themselves. What does this look like? Well, here's an example. This one's an example of ours. The dashboard is specifically designed for display to guests and staff. It's designed to be placed on a wall, or it could be connected to the central media system in a hotel or casino and streamed to guest rooms and monitors. We're using this in chain restaurants, in employee break rooms, and in some of the biggest school districts in the country, in the United States already. That one's just ours, Hawk and AQ, but there are many other options available. Some you can get for about $90 on Amazon, like the one you see on the left, and some will cost you 5 or 6 figures. We've seen some solutions quoted at 8 figures from one of the big HVAC companies, and it was so overcomplicated that no one ever used it, not even the building technicians. So some are better than others. Here's what we think you should look for when it comes to choosing an air quality monitoring system. Everyone knows CDC. WELL is quickly becoming a household name as a certification of good air quality. Find a dashboard that tracks your building against these standards so you can communicate that to your staff and guests. You won't get that from the Amazon stuff, but there are affordable options that do this. If your building's a commercial building, you're probably going to have some combination of proprietary HVAC equipment, unless you're running your business out of your home. So it's completely doable to start from scratch with affordable wireless sensors. But if you want to make use of the equipment that's already in the building, you want a system that can talk to old equipment. Most buildings in North America are about 60 years old, and even a lot of the new equipment doesn't conform to any standard. So you really want to find a system that can handle your equipment that you already have if you're trying to minimize capital investments. Just a couple more and then I'll be done. It should speak the same language as your building. Again, yes, these things are still around. They are sometimes actually this dirty, and we have connected them up to the air quality and building automation system successfully. It's amazing how much money you can save if you get these connected up. It should speak the same language as your staff and customers. So you've already seen that the wall dashboards are ready to go, like the one you see on the right. You've seen what those look like. We can provide guests with further reassurance by providing them with some handouts. So this one on the left is an example of a printout that can go on the reverse side of the table stands that all the restaurants are putting out. One side has the QR code to scan the contactless menu. The other side has a QR code to scan and view the live air quality metrics. Similar materials could be provided on check-in to a hotel. It just mentions that the air quality is being monitored and conforms to standards. Scan here to view. This really helps communicate a commitment to safety. Second to last, it should be secure. Obviously, if you're going to be showing dashboards to staff or the public, you want a system that gives you complete control over what information you share. We recommend one that provides point level customization, so you can pick exactly which sensor you're comfortable with sharing on a dashboard. And you also want to look for one that's customizable. So different organizations have different standards in different locations that they need to follow. PM10 and humidity levels that are appropriate for a kitchen might be very different from those of a hotel or restaurant. So you want that customizability. Lastly, it shouldn't be too expensive. If you're a restaurant or a hotel, the $90 gadget on Amazon isn't going to cut it, but the 6 or 7 figure solution is just overkill. You want something that's affordable, but still enterprise ready, standards compliant, and meets your needs. Luckily, this is very achievable today. Even if you have to buy the sensors, there are good wireless options that are installable in a day and are well within budgets. Make sure the maintenance isn't too expensive either. There are some systems like ours where you can get all the features you need and still be well under $1 per guest for a hotel. Of course, even less than that for a restaurant. So in conclusion, I hope I've provided some useful next steps for you to all be able to go out and improve the air quality in our buildings and make them more safe and communicate that safety to our guests where it matters and our staff, so we can make some really positive impact on our businesses. Again, my name is John. We're from Hawken AQ. If you have any questions or would like to learn more, please feel free to reach out directly, john@hawkenaq.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John and Chris, and sorry for my technical difficulties. Do you hear me now, John?
I do.
Great. I welcome Vipin to see if there's any questions.
Hello. So there was really a great insights from your side, John and Chris. So there are a few questions from our viewers and our audience, which I want to ask. So the question to you, John, is one of the questions is that most of the harmful particles are too small and many of them are invisible organic components, which is erupting out of the chemicals. So staff use for cleaning and indoor cooking in eateries. So how can you resolve that issue?
Yeah, that's a really good point. We see that a lot. We'll put VOC sensors in the buildings, and then everyone's doing way more cleaning than usual, especially in certain types of businesses, and the VOCs go through the roof. There's not a good solution if you have to do that to follow government safety requirements. Best thing you can do is to try and keep your guests away from the areas where you're currently cleaning, and or do a deeper clean overnight when the building's not being used as heavily. And then it's always good to increase your ventilation. The more you can increase ventilation, the faster you can pull those VOCs out.
Okay, thanks. And there's another question which is about the hospitality. So we want to know that with hospitality industry being almost completely shut most part of the last year and gradually opening now, so how are they investing in new solutions or indoor air quality?
How is hospitality investing in new solutions?
Yeah, with respect to the air quality.
Yeah, well, a lot of them aren't, or because they're closed, and a lot of the solutions that are out there require pretty big capital commitments and don't work well with their existing hardware. Now that's changing. There's platforms like ours that are designed to work with existing hardware and be cheaper. So our hope is that as the awareness grows in the industry and people realize that it actually is really affordable and doable to do this stuff, and you can communicate it to your guests in a way that improves retention and helps your business, that we'll see more of this.
Yeah, John, also I'll add that there's most of the casinos and large event places are trying to introduce more outside air and other technologies that we went through in my talk anyway, and your talk. But those things are paying back dividends for them.
Right, Chris. So I have a couple of questions for you also, Chris. So one of the question is that, is it possible to measure the contribution of organic carbon and element carbon emitting from indoor cooking in a ambient environment?
I'm not really aware of any measurements. There's VOC sensors that will measure some things. Typically with cooking odors and smoking and different types of odors, carbon filtration does a great job. But that's usually something that you can either, you'll be able to tell, because a sensor is just something that simulates your senses, but your senses are different by certain people. Certain people are allergic to certain things. Certain people are sensitive to certain things, and it really comes down to people and if they're comfortable. And we did notice, it's been many years where there's smoking allowed in certain areas, and most of those places have been banned. And we used a Cositron or a carbon filter or other technologies, and the attendance to those sites were incredible. As far as if you looked at one that addressed smoking and one that didn't address smoking, the place that had smoking addressed, their occupancies were much higher.
Right. I agree with you.
Vipin, I'm back now. If I could just show a bit about CABA, unless you have other questions, or is time run out?
We're done with the questions. So now I was about to come to you because we just want to know more about CABA and your rating system.
Okay, so I'm going to, now that I'm technically back, I think I can help if I share my screen. And you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Do you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, yes.
But I don't see it. Okay, hold on. Let me see it. So basically, CABA is the Continental Automated Building Association. It's been around for over 30 years. I helped set it up when I was at the utility. CABA.org, and they've just issued an executive summary of the first study they just did, Module 1, on intelligent buildings and COVID. And it can be downloaded from the CABA website under, free research. I'm going to go quickly through the slides that I have just in the interest of time, and I apologize for the technical difficulties. So basically, CABA is a trade association that wants to empower, buildings, people, and spaces and technology.
I'm David Katz. I've been doing this for many years. Sorry for the technical difficulties. And CABA has a vast number of large companies who are trade association members and working on intelligent buildings. These are the areas that relate to COVID and what they're trying to do now, areas of focus. This is from the report that can be downloaded. These are the things that Chris and John have just spoken about, eliminating the COVID issues. I'll just quickly go through a smart building rating process that we use, because smart buildings, actually the COVID crisis has brought out the need to upgrade our building automation and advance all the technical opportunities from remote learning and working and better air quality. So, a connected building is a smart building. That would make an intelligent building. There are a number of definitions, and in the interest of time, I'm going to go quickly through the slides, and then, Vipin could post them on their website. There are a number of rating systems, as was mentioned, including the WELL now that's complementary to the green and the energy. Basically, the building intelligence quotient that a number of us wrote and that Chris Larry helped develop is being updated now because it was done about 10 years ago or more. As was shown by Frost and Sullivan, there was a benefit to the BIQ, and CABA's looking at how do we rate the intelligence of building as well as the energy, as well as the green and environmental. And so we had an online site. They're still available, our initial version at BIQ, building-iq.com. You get a score when you answer the questions. We print out a report that shows you what you have in your building and what you need to improve your building. Now we're going to do more about COVID and remote working, etc. In order to make all this happen, as you see, Bixby just brought out a design implementation guide as it relates to the communication needed to make an intelligent building. There's a Division 25 for an intelligent building management system, and it brings to the abilities that John mentioned and Chris mentioned about bringing all the technology from the sensors and the readings back to a decision-making system and getting information from each one of these systems to facilitate intelligent and smart building operations. There's a number of building rating score systems I'm going to quickly go through. WireScore was just now changed to Smart Score. Spire has just been out there with the UL, and they cover all these issues, connectivity, health and well-being, as you see. There is a smart building certification process run by a university collaboration in Europe. There's an IB index that Australia is doing, so you can see everybody wants to get into smart buildings. The Europeans have a smart readiness indicator to get your building ready to be energy efficient, and now to be indoor air quality efficient. And they have an indicator, a weighing score. We have a new building intelligence quotient 2.0 that people can contact me at dcats@building-iq, and I can explain more about that. And it's going to cover all these smart building things that we think are needed in the future. And, we talk about digital twins and real-time data. So this COVID has shown us that measurement and verification is paramount, and then displaying it in real time is going to be important. As noted, post-COVID, building concerns about indoor air quality, the new ASHRAE guidelines, having an expert as Chris or John or some of the engineers and some of the people that work in the building space, make sure that you're getting value for money and that some of the things that you're installing are valuable in the future as well. So some of the things that were in the COVID report, the CABA, is the implications about health and thermal comfort and moisture, acoustics. These are the things that are now, part of the facility management desire to improve. Here are some of the things that were just mentioned by Chris and John about measurement, about cleaning, recalibration of BAS, and other things. This is CABA's website. We welcome members. We are happy to work with Trulia Expo on their innovative events, including this one. I'm David Katz, and I'm going to turn it back to Vipin. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We are really excited to collaborate with Continental Automated Building Association, and we are excited to announce about our show, which is going to happen on 8th and 9th of June, the InnoFact show. And this is just one of the a series of webinars that we are, executing. And the main show is all about, how the facility managers are getting benefited through the solutions, like Chris and John have mentioned, and David, you also provided a great insight about how indoor air quality can help to improve the efficiency. So likewise, there will be many solutions coming on our show, and we look forward to have you all there at the InnoFact show as well.
Much. And for those, thank you, John and Chris, for your patience and sorry for my technical difficulties, but luckily there's a backup. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll share the slides with you, Vipin. You can share them with the group.